Hello everyone, welcome again to the channel. Today I want to discuss with you some news regarding Russia, and let's get started with the first one. I found this story very interesting. It's talking about how many Western brands left the Russian market, but what is not widely known is how the legal system in Russia changed after this. So the legal system in Russia has changed, that is not conceding, let's say, marketing image or some copyright claims over certain designs or brands that previously were enforced according to most international standards. Even if, in my opinion, personal opinion, not legal, is that this should not be enforced so strictly. That's the way they were doing it. For example, we know this story where Microsoft was creating a legal case about the name of the brand because it was a guy whose name was Mike Rowe, and he created a website and he was working with software, so he created the website and the name of the website was Mike Rowe Soft. So even though in writing it was completely different, when you pronounce it, it was sounding similar to Microsoft, and they created a legal case and apparently they couldn't win. So finally they reached an agreement with him. But this is, in my opinion, the kind of abuse that big brands, big companies impose on smaller companies, that they just want to use whatever name they want, and if they think it is somehow similar or uses just similar colors or similar concepts, they are not allowed to use it. In my opinion, this is an abuse on the part of big companies. But what is happening now in Russia is that they decided to go in a complete different way, and they started to allow all these things that previously were not, let's say, very popular. So, for example, Coca-Cola left, and some companies came back and started to sell their own products with their own formulas, their own brands, but somehow the formulas could be considered probably in the West too similar to the original. So I will show you something here that it is, let's say, a good example of something like this. For example, this, you see this can here says Fantola. So what they were saying is that is some kind of Fanta, but it's cola. So for sure this in the United States will not be approved, even if in my personal opinion has nothing to do with it. Of course it's using the colors of Coca-Cola, but it's actually using part of the name of let's say Fanta. But in my opinion, in the West they are too strict. Just because it uses the FANT, does that mean that you cannot create any other product that uses those letters? Well, in the West, the judge will usually side with the big company. So this kind of product will never be allowed to exist in the United States, for example, or maybe in most Western countries, but now it's allowed in Russia. I don't see the harm. I think people know that they're buying a product that is not in any way related to Coca-Cola, so in my opinion, it's not harming the brand. But this is what is happening now in Russia. This is allowed and is becoming increasingly popular. You see products like this, like Cool Cola, which some people will say, oh, it sounds like Coca-Cola. Well, maybe not. And this is Fancy. It's another, let's say, product similar to Fanta. And they just because it uses the F, they will say, oh, it's using the F, so it's similar to Fanta, so cancelled. And you see this product here that says Street, and it uses similar colors to Sprite. So they will say, oh, it is too similar to Sprite, so cancelled. So this is what I'm talking about, that this, in my opinion, is actually creating some artificial situations where big companies are not allowing small ones to do things that are actually not harming the brand, because people will not be deceived into believing that it is a Fanta or is a Sprite or is a Coca-Cola. They will know it's not. I don't see the harm. And they also mentioned in this article this thing that is they are calling parallel imports. For example, some products are no longer being sold in Russia, and Russia is now allowing let's say persons or companies to import these unofficially. Let's say for example, feminine products, Carefree, they go someplace where they are sold, they buy a bunch of those and they import them illegal, let's say legally import them into Russia, but they sell them inside Russia without the permission of the manufacturer. I don't see the harm in this. I think it is perfectly normal. I don't see why it will be a problem. But of course, there are legislation to avoid these kind of things. But now in Russia, they were forced by all these strange sanctions and all this cancel Russian culture. So they decided to do it like they don't care anymore about pleasing anyone in the Western countries, Western economies. So they are more lenient on this kind of situation. And for example, they mentioned the case of the golden arcs, that there are some establishments that are using the golden arcs even though McDonald's is no longer in the Russian market. That is a little bit more dark, and I think is probably not right to do it, but they allow it. They mention also the case that now champagne products are allowed to use the name champagne in Russia, when before it was not allowed because of some international agreements that only products coming from the region of Champagne were allowed to use it. Now they can do it. It is allowed. They also mentioned the case of Stars Coffee, which is the company that came after Starbucks and is using a logo that is completely different from the original Starbucks, but is using some elements that some people say are too similar, like the colors, for example, and the name Stars is similar to Starbucks. And the same is about the stars. It's actually very Russian concept, the stars. That's why they are naming it Stars, because the stars in Russian culture has a different meaning. The woman itself is a Russian woman with a special thing on top of the head that is also part of Russian culture. But I'm sure this will never be allowed in the United States, for example, or in any other country. Even if it is completely original, they will never allow it. So that's the kind of thing that is happening now. So it's completely new things that are happening now in Russia. And I cannot blame the Russians for doing this, but in a way, these companies decided to do this for very stupid reasons. There was no real reason, no real business reason to exit the market that was very profitable. But they did it for PR basically, and to please some opinion, public opinion. but many of these companies are actually harming their businesses by doing this. So that is what is happening currently. I thought it was interesting to mention it. I'm talking about a Russian business that is called Wild Berries. Wild Berries, when I was living in Russia, this is a very popular website. It's providing some kind of service similar somehow to the service that you get from Amazon. So they have all kinds of different products, and they have different ways of delivery. Usually they have different offices, even in small towns, very small towns. They have these offices, so you order something online and then the product comes to the office, like a small warehouse, and you can pick it up from there after a few days. And I think this is a very successful business in Russia. So what they're doing is that they are rebranding. This is the Russian name in the website, even though everything is in Russian. The official name of the website is Wild Berries. And they recently started to register the name Yagodki, which in Russian means berries. So now they are going to rebrand the website and they are going to use it, but apparently as of now they're using it in parallel, so maybe it will never completely disappear or change to Yagodki, because I think there is a lot of effort and investments done in the wild berries, so probably will not be very wise to just change it overnight. But they say they want to keep the trademark from being used from someone else who maybe think it is a good idea to use the name, because it is the Russian version of the berries. And in the previous episode, I mentioned this about the Stars Coffee, which is the successor of Starbucks. They started selling alcohol in their menu, and they're going to do this in some of their premium sites. I thought it was a very good idea. Of course, Starbucks is not doing it, they're only selling coffee. But I think since they already have very good locations, I think it is going to only be positive for their profits. If someone wants to go there and drink a coffee, or someone goes and wants to drink alcohol, I think it is great. I think it's a great idea. Maybe it will be very successful. I think it is a very original idea, and since they no longer have to obey the original design or processes that Starbucks was following, so this will change business in there. And the next one is about self-reliance and domestic production. Russia decided that we'll start making automatic transmissions, ABS systems, and airbags for their domestic production, car productions, which were before mostly imported. But again, because of the sanctions and many other things, they start to focus on this, and they say they are going to produce small diesel engines, automatic transmissions, ABS systems, airbags. And of course, it's going to take some time, because now with the globalization, a lot of countries were not doing this locally, so they had this plan to do this, and the target date is 2035. So that's going to take a while. It's not going to happen overnight, but they are going to focus on this, and I think this trend will not be reversed. So maybe it's a good thing. I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell. There's a new proposal. So they want to start using some Russian aircraft that was originally produced when it was still the Soviet Union, that is called Jak 42, and the owner of this company is planning to lease some of these original Jak 42 aircraft, which were modernized and they have an increased flight range. And so they want to promote the use of these airplanes to Russian airlines, so they will not have problems with sanctions, and of course they will not have problems with spare parts, because these were completely locally produced or completely produced locally, and it is a very good idea. I previously mentioned the fact that in the MS-21 and the Sukhoi, I think it's S-100, they're also going to be producing local versions without any import spare parts by the end of 2023, but it's still more than a year into that. So this is how it looks. This Yakovlev Jak 42. It's a big airplanes for 100 to 120 passengers, designed for short to medium range flights. But like they say here, they modify this so it can fly longer. So it is how they are adapting in the market to survive. And this is a proposal for a law to be introduced in Russia. So they want to give parental salary, which will provide parents on maternity leave. I think this is a great idea. You know, in Russia, they have for some time created some legislation to support motherhood and parenthood and families, and they want families to have more children, so they are doing all kinds of incentive for this. This is not new, but I consider something very, very positive about Russia that they're doing this. So this new proposal will basically allow a mother to stay at home permanently, so she will have a salary just for being a mother. I think it's great, and they also have some proposals that they want to have some preferential mortgages for couples, preferential mortgages for mothers, and some incentives for marriages. So what they want to incentivize is basically families. If you know, Russia has had for some time some declining birth rates. It's not the only country in Europe that is having this problem, but they have been mildly successful with all these policies, and they want to do even more. So I think a lot of countries should do this. This is something worth investing, you know, in the future of your country. And of course, they want to create more incentives for as you have more children. They want to include incentives as far as 3 children, maybe more later, but for now this is what they have. So this is something very good. I think it is good that the Russians are doing this to protect families. And I wanted to give an update to the previous episode that I mentioned that the first ferry from Yeysk arrived at the port of Mariupol. Yeysk is in Russia. Mariupol is in the Donetsk People's Republic. So Mariupol is in this part and is going back and forth between Yeysk and Mariupol. I mentioned that this was a historical ferry that was running daily before, maybe a few times a day. And the ship that got there was, the name of the ship was Lavrenti. And the first, so the update is that they mentioned that the travel time is about 4 hours, and they will run once a day, and the ferry can carry 136 people and up to 20 trucks or 700 tons of cargo. Originally, the line is intended for the delivery of goods necessary for the restoration of Mariupol and other settlements in the Donbas Republic, so maybe later will become more a civil ferry for civilian use. And they also mention something else here, that they establish a railway connection between Mariupol and Volnovakha, which is a regular electric train. And the train is designed for 200 people, and the ticket price is 27 rubles. That is half a dollar. That is very good, I think, very affordable prices. So that's good news. Good news is complementary to something I already reported before. And this, I thought it was interesting too. So when I was in Russia, for me, it was very interesting that school children go to school six days a week, so Monday to Friday, and they go also on Saturday. So I couldn't understand it. For me, coming from Mexico, we have had for the longest time 5 days weeks for students all the time. Nobody goes to school on Saturday. But in Russia, they do it, and they started to introduce this proposal. So they want to make it a 5-day week, 5-day for school that are elementary schools and middle school students. They say that in general they think children do not have time to relax and spend enough time with their parents. Yeah, because they have only one day free to relax. But unfortunately for high school students, they will continue with the 6th day, so bad luck for them. I honestly don't understand, it's like a completely different culture in this. Of course they are used to it, they have been doing it all their life. But I think at least it's positive that small children will have the opportunity to have more days to relax than they have currently now. So that's it for now. I wanted to just share this news, and let me know what you think about it in the comment section. I want to remind you about the opportunity to help me support my work with donations. In the description of each episode, I include information about different platforms you can use to support me. You can also help me by liking, sharing this episode in social media, and subscribing. I hope to see you again very soon. Thank you for watching.